case you're wondering where you are, we're talking about growing means caring. So we're going to be talking about care groups. And my name is Thomas Martin. I'm the associate pastor at First Baptist Church, Pineville, Louisiana. Woo! All right. Y'all from Pineville? All right. Oh, you have to put up with Brother Kevin. Here's a handout. All right, thank you. So I've been there almost 14 years. In about 10 days, I'll finish 14 years there. And before that, I was 11 years at Bellevue Baptist Church in Hurst, Texas, which is a church that I started serving in seminary and stayed for several years after that before coming back home to Louisiana. And so it's been a good time. My wife, Adrian, and I have been married 22 years, and we have a daughter, Anna, who's starting 9th grade Monday. So we're not ready for that. But the good news is my wife teaches geometry at the high school, so we have eyes. So we're good. Actually, we've had eyes for a long time because we have church members in the district all over the place, so it's been good. And our son, Daniel, will begin 5th grade on Monday. And then Tuesday, he has to hang out in the office with me before going back to school for real on Wednesday. I don't understand why our district does that, but that's what they do. So he'll get to hang out. So I asked the question, what makes you stay in your Sunday school or your small group? Besides, I'm the teacher and I have to. What makes you stay in your group?
I don't have any place to go.
Don't have any other place to go? All right.
Actually, I teach a Spanish class.
Okay.
And it's different. I read the lesson in English.
Mm-hmm.
And the couple that I teach, they help me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I don't know a word, I have this program on the computer where if I don't understand how to pronounce the word, it'll give me a small video and show me how to pronounce
cool.
it. So I just highlight it. And at first I thought, Lord, what did you get me into? And as I'm going, it gets better.
Yeah. So that's a great ministry. That's awesome. Anybody else? Relationships. That's a big one too.
Group members who become friends.
Group members who become friends. All right.
Probably even more important than that you like the teacher, because if you connect with people in the class,
Absolutely.
you have a core group, they
Mhm.
might forgive just an okay teacher. If
Yep.
not, then you better be spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Something has to bond that group.
Absolutely.
Stay in that
Yeah.
class.
And that's what we're going to be looking at today is why we need that, which it's a great definition of why we need that, and how we can or what we need to do to help make that happen. So we're going to start kind of on the academic side of, why we need that. So why are groups needed? And the first of those is, do what? Uh-huh. Come on in. Here's a handout. So, our first point of why we need care groups is this idea is the design of Sunday school groups is shown to be the primary means for reaching, teaching, and ministering to people. And I don't know how many of you follow Alan Taylor, longtime minister of education, but looking at Matthew 4:23, it says, "Now Jesus began to go all over Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news." That good news there is where we get the idea of evangelism. "And healing every disease and sickness among the people," the ministry. This verse and this line right here is what we use at our church for the purpose of Sunday school, is to reach people, to teach people, and to minister to people. And this is what we use primarily to help fulfill the Great Commission, right? Because we got to reach people, we have to teach them, and the reason we're here today is to reach them. If you reach them and you teach them, you have to keep them, right? The back door can't be open and everybody just walking on out the back door. And so that's why we're here. Also, as we've mentioned, people just have a natural need to belong to a group, right? And if we enjoy that group, we're more likely to stick around and be a part of it. Relationships also keep them connected. We've mentioned that, both to that group, but also to the church in general. I have friends that go to another church, and they love their small group, right? Notice I didn't say they love going to worship, right? But they love their small group, and that's why they're there. There's really nothing wrong with their worship, but they're there because of that small group. And on a side note, the people who are connected with their small group and connected with their church, but especially if they're connected in your small group, they're more likely to be good givers, right? It's just a side fact, but it's a helpful side fact, right? Because somebody has to pay for that curriculum and the light bill to be on and all those kinds of things.
We found out during COVID business too that most of the people that never came back after were not connected in small group.
That's
The
pretty
ones
much
that were
our
connected in small
that's
group,
pretty much our experience as well. Yep.
almost all those people.
Yep. Because they long to be back there again. So
We missed them.
if we don't have a small group that's actively doing what they're supposed to be doing, it's very easy for people to fall through the cracks and us to lose track of them. Early on in ministry, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 years in, I went to a funeral for a lady that I had not met. She was an older lady. And it was very sad because our pastor preached it and I was there. And there were like 2 other senior adult people who were there because they remembered her. But somehow she had fallen through the cracks and nobody had kept up with her. And that was the point. I'm like, we must keep up with people somehow. And so everybody when you join the church or you remember the church, whether you come or not, you were on a Sunday school roll or Sunday school ministry list at our church because it's their job to help make sure that connection is happening. Because with 400 to 500 people, the staff, we can't know everybody and what's happening. But smaller groups can, and then they send us an email or a text of what's happening. And obviously new people need a small group of people to get plugged into and know and be a part of their fellowship. So what's the purpose of our care group? Obviously, the biggie that we've all been talking about is we just need to build relationships, right? Because we all need friends in life. Work is hard enough, right? We need some good friends to help along the way. We also need relationships to answer questions like, how do I make it through this first year of having a freshman in high school, right? I mean, we need those people in our lives. To encourage participation and provide accountability. If you know you're going to be missed and somebody's going to ask you where you were last Sunday, aren't you more likely to show up? Yeah, right? You don't want to say, I was just sleeping. You don't want to say that. So, also, though, we need to meet the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of those people. And those physical needs are so important. One of our classes is kind of taken on really kind of the handyman ministry for people in our church. And they even went out and bought their own ramp, like for wheelchairs, for front doors, And they've moved that thing 3 or 4 times in the last 2 years as people have temporarily needed wheelchair access to their homes. They're meeting those physical needs that are there. Also, they serve as a communication link between the members, the class, and the church. I don't know if you know this or not, but I've been on staff long enough to know that people don't read the bulletin. Did you know that? It doesn't matter. You could put it in the bulletin, the slides beforehand, the email that goes out that week, the Facebook page. I mean, you put it everywhere, and they don't read it. So if it's super important and we want to make sure people know what's going on, as part of my weekly email to our Sunday school leaders, hey, make sure you talk about, right? It helps that communication flow even better. But we must not forget that they're prayer support, right? Because when we do life together, we like it when life is going well, but when life isn't going well, right, we want that group to be there to pray for us. When you have that, go to the doctor and you come back and all of a sudden you have that C word coming up, you want that group praying for you. You have that child that does something dumb and you don't know how to deal with it, right? You want that group sharing wisdom and praying for that situation as well. And as a recruiter of people in our preschool children and youth, this right here is invaluable. Fellowship for those who are members in service. If you have somebody that used to be in your group and now they're teaching preschool children and youth, guess what? They don't ever get to hang out with adults anymore. Thus, when you have a fellowship, please invite them so they can hang out with adults and know that you still love them. Because if they know they're still connected with you all as adults, guess what? They're going to keep serving in the preschool children and youth ministry. And we need people in both, right? And so it helps do that solidification as well. So what's it look like? Well, a care group is just a small group of individuals, right? Typically, depending on your size of your class, your care group might be your class, right? If you have a larger class, you might need to break it up into 2 or 3 care groups. A care group needs to be the size that somebody can easily contact with just a few phone calls or a few text messages or a few emails, whether, and you kind of have to decide what that is, whether it's easy for everybody to call 6 people or 5 people or 7 or however that case may be. But as you divide up your group, if you're needing to divide it up, remember you're going to have those members who are there all the time, right? Making a contact with them. Those are our friends typically, we're used to those people. But we also want to mix in each group some prospects, right? Those people who we know they're out there. They may or may not have ever come, but we're still going to reach out to them, let them know they're loved, cared for, and invite them to be a part, because part of it's bringing in new people, right? And then, as we mentioned earlier, those that are in service. So don't give all of the prospects or all of the in-service people to one person to contact, right? Spread those out, kind of pepper them through there, because that's going to allow the leader to be encouraged and to be encouraging, right? If all you have are the prospects that never show up, you're never going to be encouraged, right? You're going to be discouraged. But if 1 or 2 of them are that, and others are coming, you're still encouraged. And of course, you're encouraging others all the time when you are contacting them. And as I mentioned, you shouldn't have more than what's easy for one person to contact in a reasonable amount of time. And you can decide how that looks along the way. And you may change that over time. We shoot for like 6 or 7, and then a new group, a care group is formed so somebody else can do that. So what does the leader do? Well, believe it or not, a care group leader leads the care ministry of your group. Shocking, isn't it? I mean, that's just, whew. So you're responsible for the care and minister of the people in your group. You're making sure your people are cared for. That doesn't mean you're doing all the caring, right? But you're making sure that they are cared for. So you're going to be involved in, or get your members involved in ministering, for contacting and caring for those people in your group throughout the week. So you're making sure, hey, did you contact so-and-so? Did you contact everybody every week? However you're going to make that look. I always encourage the care group leader to be the person in your group that takes attendance. Because how do we care for people if we don't know whether they're there or not, right? And I know a lot of times the teacher does that, but let's be honest, the teacher has enough to do preparing for the lesson, grabbing everybody's attention, starting that lesson, teaching it, doing all those kinds of things, right? So a care group leader should help take attendance. And again, the more people that are involved, the more people who are regularly going to show up, right? Because we always show up when we have a responsibility. And of course, they're to lead that care group time on Sunday morning. So care group time on Sunday morning. Here's what I encourage our classes to do is obviously, you know, we say we're reaching people, we're teaching people, and we're ministering to people. So if we believe that reaching people is important, we need to have some time to talk about reaching people, right? If we believe teaching is important, which we do, because every class has a teacher, obviously they need time to teach, and they need enough time to teach correctly, right? Not just, oh, the last 5 minutes we got to throw this lesson in there. So we don't want to overdo it. But also, if we want to care for people, we have to give them some time to care for the people, right? And so teachers, give your outreach leader and your care group leader a little bit of time each week to do what they need to do as well. So what does that look like practically? Well, here's what we encourage. Obviously, to take attendance, right? To assign or follow up on weekly contacts. Hey, we just got this new name. Would you make sure to contact this week and invite them to our fellowship that's coming up in 2 weeks and to next Sunday as a part of it, right? So pass those out. And if you made assignments last week, hey, how did the contact go with so-and-so? Well, they never answered. All right, do you want to try calling them again, or do you want somebody else to try calling them this time? You know, maybe a different number will be it. So we're taking that time to do that. We're discovering ministry needs and how to meet those needs. What are some ministry needs that we can learn about people that we might need to meet? Personal? Okay.
Medical, somebody's sick or something.
If somebody's sick or something, all right.
The air conditioner might not be working
You have
right
to
now.
spend time,
I believe that.
spend time with them and get to really know them and their physical maladies to know how you can reach out to them.
Okay. It does take knowing that. All right. What else? Do young adults have the same needs as senior adults all the time? No. How might young adults be different?
They have different challenges in life.
They do. What do they have that grows our preschool?
Children.
They have children, right?
A lot of them.
So if we have a young adult class and, you know, John and Jane just had a baby and are coming home, wouldn't it be awesome to set up a meal train where they don't have to worry about cooking for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever the case may be? We do that all the time, right? And before that, we make sure there's a baby shower so they have what they need, right? So, by the way, my wife would be upset if I didn't say this. So, and if they had baby number 2, have another shower. They still need stuff. All right. So, all right. Don't get myself in trouble. Moving on. You know, we're going to find out they have job struggles, right? We might find out that because they're in the hospital, there's nobody at home mowing the lawn. We can mow the lawn, right? All of those things are just examples of what we discover when we actually talk to them and we're meeting with them on a regular basis. And the more we know and they are connected, the more likely they are to let us know that even in advance, right? That they need some help with something that is coming up. Obviously, we're also going to share prayer requests and to pray for each other, right? Because that's just it. And I put personal on there because in the small group setting where we know each other and we've been hanging around and we're doing life together, we're way more likely to share those more personal prayer requests. One of those purposes of having these small groups called Sunday school or life groups or whatever you call them is, you know, I don't want to stand up in the worship service in front of 400 people and say what my biggest whatever is. But in that small group where we're together every week and we know they love us, we can share that and we can pray for each other, right? I forgot what the handout has. Does this have what those people do on a week-to-week basis on your handout? Nope. Okay. So here's what I encourage our people to do. First Sunday of the month, if you're a care group leader, make sure you're checking on those prospect connections, either passing out new ones or following up on them. Second week, I encourage them to recruit somebody to share their testimony. All right? Because if the whole point of this is to reach new people and to share the gospel and fulfill the Great Commission, sometimes we just need a little encouragement. And we're kind of scared sometimes to share a testimony. But if we can share it in our small group where it's safe, we're much more likely to share it out in the world where it doesn't seem as safe, right? And that doesn't always mean that, every 6 months, if you only have 6 people, we need to hear about their salvation experience, right? Because your testimony can be what happened at the grocery store last week, right? So it can vary up. The third Sunday, encourage them to go back to those prospects, make sure they're following up and doing what they're supposed to be doing there. And then the fourth Sunday, we encourage every class to have some kind of ministry project, whether that is something you do once a year or something that you do regularly, like the group, or it's just happens off and on, like the group that moves the ramp around. A lot of ours do Operation Christmas Child, so they're collecting stuff every month to get to that point where they pack their shoe boxes. So that fourth Sunday, encourage them to talk about that. And as you can see, if you do that, kind of break it up like that, the care group leader shouldn't need more than 3 to 5 minutes, right? And if you give the outreach leader 3 to 5 minutes, you still should have plenty of time to teach a Sunday school lesson. I know you want the full time, but we all know that the mind can only endure what the rear end can endure, right? So that 45 minutes that you have to teach still is still more time than your pastor probably has to preach. So you have great influence at that point. So why contact care group members? Why do we do this? Well, exactly. So they do not fall between the cracks. So we're going to contact them if we know that they have a need and we can minister to them. Obviously, how we can pray for them. This one is extremely important, especially for those that don't or can't come regularly. It doesn't mean that they can't pray for the same things you're praying for and that you can't be praying for what they're praying for. Because just with a simple phone call, you can find out what's on their heart. And so you bring it back that Sunday, you pray for that, which gives you a great opportunity to call the next week and say, hey, this week, just want you to know we did pray for this situation. We want to find out how that's going and see if there's anything else we can pray for you about. Right? It's just a great way to make a contact that's not, you didn't come to church, right? So don't want to make those contacts. When they need encouragement, sometimes you just know that they're down, or you've heard through the grapevine that, their mother's not doing well, or their brother's not doing well. Well, give them a call, encourage them along the way. Obviously, if they haven't been there, we want to check up on them. If we're a close-knit group, we probably know why they're not there, but if they're those fringe people, right, we need to find that out, because sometimes they just got out of the groove, right? And so just a little letting them know they care kind of pops them back into the groove. Or it could be they have something going on they haven't shared, and they might be willing to share one-on-one where they're not going to come to the group and share, even though it is a small group. Obviously, if you need to inform them of information for the class or church activities. And this is a good way to drag people in here, number 6. Sometimes you call them up because you need them to help do something else, right? Because they have a skill that you need. But what happens when you do that? They're not just encouraged, right? Because they know something and you need their help. But all of a sudden, when that person and 2 or 3 others come together to fix some lady's door or whatever the case may be, what happens? They're engaged, and the relationship grows between just those 2 or 3 people, right? And so that's what we want to see happen. If you look at all these, the relationship goes both ways. We're encouraging those that we're contacting, but it's also allowing those who are contacted to communicate back with us, right? And so we know how we can better contact them and relate to them. So how should you contact members? When I started ministry, back when people actually watched television, I used to call this the MTV method because you had mail, telephone, and a visit. And now nobody has a clue what MTV is. Do what?
Nor does MTV.
Nor does MTV. I don't know. We got rid of cable a long time ago. So I just go back to the basic list of what these are now. So we make visits, right? Why would we physically visit somebody? To check on them? Okay. I'm not sure where that came from, but somewhere this way. All right. To physically check on them, right? What else? To take them a meal. Okay. What else? Just the face-to-face interaction sometimes, especially if they haven't been there in a while, right? Sometimes they just need a hug, all right? More personal. All right. Anything else?
Let them know you care about them.
Let them know you care about them. All right.
Just the visit encourages them.
Yeah, just the visit, right? All of those are great. I mentioned everything on there. Well, and the hospital, obviously, if they're in the hospital, we want to visit them there as well. Just remember, if they're hospital visiting, just pop in, greet, pray with them, and pop out. Don't hang out forever, all right? Most people in the hospital don't want you doing that, but they do want you to know that you love them and you care for them. And even then, you might get there and you're like, oh, they brought me in the ambulance and nobody's taking care of my cat. Well, don't worry about it. We'll get your cat taken care of, you know. You can find out those kinds of things. How about calls and texts? Why would we do those? It's quick, right? All right. Not everything takes a long conversation, right? All right. What else?
Sometimes it's supporting the person just feels like somebody cares.
Just because somebody cares and thought of me, right?
That's the way to connect with the younger generation.
It's a way to connect. You say that. Those senior adults can text now. Don't be counting them out.
They might be down when you call.
Okay.
Text,
Okay.
and it brings them back up.
All right. Yeah. They might be a little bit down, especially if you've called and they seem a little bit down, and so maybe a day later, hey, just let you know I'm thinking about you and praying for you. Boom. Send that text, right? All right. What else?
That could be a little more spontaneous.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you probably don't just visit people spontaneously. You probably want to set that up first.
Uh-huh.
Call or text.
Yeah. It's just showing you care, isn't it? Yeah. Anything else? Absolutely.
I'm kind of in a quarantine.
We still feel that way, kind of, don't we? Yeah.
That's what my pastor says. People don't want you to come anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yep.
To recognize when that person hasn't been on your mind, but it comes to your mind and God's putting it there.
Yeah. Absolutely. What else?
Sometimes it gives the person that's visiting them something inside you is fulfilled when you do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's not just for them, it's also does something for you.
It does. That's good.
Can I share a story that happened at our church recently?
Sure.
We had a couple who came to our church, had 2 boys, and they joined. They were having fun. Then they had some problems with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and they both lost their jobs, so they were idle. They didn't come to church. They found new jobs. Now they're working nights. And our pastor contacted them, and they're coming tomorrow, bringing their 2 boys, and the pastor and associate pastor spent 2 hours, and the youth pastor, with these 2 young boys who are now
Mm-hmm.
teens. And they got about this close to accepting Jesus. And had it not been that contact, they
Yep.
would have been lost.
That's great.
And they even said, we were gonna go as a family, but we need a ride for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a problem.
Right. We can make that happen, huh?
That's how important it is.
I think you've hit most of these. Just to let them know about activities that are coming up. I know it's my hope. We have our kickoff breakfast or promotion breakfast tomorrow morning. So I'm hoping everybody on all of our lists are getting a contact today. We're just invite them, remind them of those special activities, praying for them, you've said, both to give and receive prayer requests. Those goes both ways, to encourage attendance and to see how they are doing. Now, this is kicking it old school here, but sometimes we need to write a card, right? Why would we need to actually stop and take the time to write the card? It's more special, right? Because who takes the time to do that? We do this, right? Boom, and we're done.
We did letters to jail to invite the members to come to our church.
Okay, yeah,
We wrote letters to them.
cool. What else?
It takes effort.
It does take effort, right?
They can save a card.
Yeah, they can save a card. I hadn't thought about that, but that's good. I know I have a file in my drawer of, the nice notes that come in, just kind of get stuffed in there, because sometimes you need to pull them out and read them.
That's right.
Right?
Our
Huh?
Sunday school class uses it as a ministry.
Mhm.
They're older ladies, and that's their ministry.
Yeah, that's great. That is awesome. What else? Is there any times a year you should pretty much always send a card? Christmas, birthdays, maybe anniversaries, right? All of those kind of things. Yeah, so get well.
Something about that handwritten,
Mm-hmm.
when people look at their name, and it's addressed to them, I mean, they're gonna rip it open and see what's
And it doesn't matter the age, because my kids, if it has their name on it, they want to open that, right? Even though I know what it says, because, I proofed it for the children's minister before she sent it out, they want to open it, right? Because it has their name on it. So, which is pretty cool.
Getting back to your text
Mhm.
message.
Sure.
A lot of times the Lord just brings that person to your heart. So it's good if you just immediately text them and say, the Lord brought your name to my mind right now. So that not only makes them know that you thought about it, but that the Lord brought their
Absolutely.
name.
Yep.
So it's even more
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's great.
special.
Just try not to do it 2 o'clock in the morning. One guy that texts me like, dude, I'm in bed.
You could text me then, but
When the Holy
I'm not going to
Spirit
know
moves
till
you,
tomorrow.
you can make it.
So, another neat thing about the text is, even some of our curriculums now basically guide you into little messages you can send out sometime during the week. Just kind of, or you can ask a question kind of related back to Sundays, just to kind of keep their mind revisiting that lesson that you've just taught, right? Well, it's an easy way to do that.
I do a group text to our Sunday school class,
Uh-huh.
and you get a lot of interaction. And
Yes,
it
you
may
do.
be something serious, or maybe something comical or whatever.
Yep.
Or you may want to communicate to a certain person where you don't feel like you can do that, but if you group text it, they get the message.
Right. Yep.
What you can do if there are no answers to your text?
There are no answers to the group text?
If they don't answer.
Then it might not be the best form of communication for that group. Yeah. I mean, I'm on a group text somehow with one of our classes. They're probably in their 60s, early 70s, and there's, 20 of them in there right now. They're about to become 2 classes. And so when they send something out, my phone's like, and so that group is actually like the only group I have silenced on my phone. I'll get to them when I get to them, but it might just be their thing. They might rather have an email or a call or
But if I don't like to do calls, I'm new to this.
yeah. So every group has its own personality, and so of what they like and don't like, and so you got to figure.
So I
That,
should call to ask which that they prefer?
Well, there's nothing wrong with Sunday morning coming and saying, all right, if I need to make an announcement or do that, how would you all rather receive that? you know. And also remember, if you recruit this care group leader or leaders, depending on how big your class is, then they're going to help you do that. So you don't have 15 calls to make or 15 emails to write. You know, they're going to help pass that information along as well. So.
I think an older lady at church, and she said grouping is a way that the government gets in your business. Take me out of that. So we have to call her.
Yeah. That's all right. That's all right. We have different groups for different people, right? That's why we do that. All right, just some frequently asked questions, not answered. I'll try to answer them, but frequently asked questions. So what do you do as a care group leader if you're absent? What do you think you should do?
Appoint somebody.
Either appoint somebody if you know you're going to be absent, or if it's kind of a last minute thing, you know, then you call and find out who was there, right? I mean, you're kind of working in reverse to make sure everybody is cared for. So we've asked the question, what if they don't want to text, right? What if they don't want to call because they're still a prospect? Do what?
You would ask them their appropriate means of communication.
You can ask them their appropriate means of communication. Sometimes just mail a letter. Or a card one, yeah. And the other thing is, you know, within the group, we might be contacting every week. But when it comes to those prospects, maybe we are doing less frequently, right? Because they're not a part of that yet. We kind of have to figure out and respect who they are and where they are in this process, right? And so it might not just be as frequently, okay? What if you don't have time? Appoint somebody, all right? If you consistently don't have time, you know, without being rude, maybe it's time for somebody else to do that ministry, right? And it might be that it's just a season in your life where you don't have time and you can come back and do that some more because life has ups and downs and all those kinds of things, right? And so maybe it's just a season of your time. And who do you talk to?
They're married, you talk to the wife.
Well, if you're a lady, yes. So, you know, in general, men need to be calling men, women need to be calling women, right? If they're couples, then it probably would be a little bit wiser for a lady to call the wife, and the husband will know, because if you call us, our wives are going to know at some point, oh yeah, we're leaving tomorrow for that. You know, we kind of forget to tell our wives. So make sure we are talking, but make sure we are still communicating.
I have a question.
Yes.
I like to visit people once in a while in the church in general, and I usually do it with the older people.
Mm-hmm.
But my problem is I want to reach out to guys, but they have this, it's like a wall up. Don't go near me, I'm a woman. You know, you're a woman, and it's like, so I have to find a guy in a church, go with me, go and minister to him through the guy. It's like, that is just so aggravating.
It is aggravating. And that's called a sin-fallen world. It's the world we live in because of sin. But it's what we have to do. Well, and you see it as a barrier, and it is. As a staff, we see it as a protection. You know, so yeah, it is a little bit different, but it's kind of like, you know, not all, but I do a lot with our senior adults, and I get lots of hugs on Sunday morning, but there's a lot of this, right? Just because. I mean, they could all be my grandma, but it doesn't matter your age. I treat everybody the same, right?
There's no way of ministering to them and knowing that you're not out to get them.
So, I don't know if I have a good answer for you. So, Yeah. So it might be time that you start working on that men's class that needs to be going after them too. Sick 'em. All right. So, and I don't want to be discouraging to you because I love the heart that you have. I just know that because of where we are in the world, things are just weird and different, and we have to protect everybody. So. Yep. All right. Y'all out of paper?
Yeah.
You want me to keep going? I have a couple more slides. Sure. But before we do, are there other questions? Because I would rather you walk out having answers to what you know you want answers to than me just talking for no reason. Nope. Sure.
We call on our groups, we do it once a week,
Mhm.
not to burden them.
Right.
And you get those that always come with the same excuse. How do you, try not to get discouraged?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to stop calling, you want to keep trying to lift them up. But they keep telling you, I just don't like to get up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
What else can you tell them, even though you tell them different things? What else can you, get to them?
Okay. Anybody have any ideas? Come to a different service if you have more than one. Yeah.
I'm not sure if this totally applies.
Uh-huh.
But I have one specific lady and then another one that's Taylor. But they're like, I can't get up in the morning. I said, well, I don't mind calling you. I set a reminder on my phone. They're like, yeah, call me at 8 o'clock. I set a reminder on my phone, and at 8 o'clock, they get my phone call.
There you go.
We don't talk. I just say,
Yeah.
good morning, time to get up. See you later.
I think you have, well, before I talk, anybody else have a thought? Oh, the question was, they're calling every week, and they kind of get the same reply, basically, I just don't want to get up that early and show up. So how do you keep from getting discouraged during that?
Mine's a little different. I got a question on how to find information.
Mhm.
I do a class on mental illness, how God sees,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm running out of not stuff for mental illness, but like a curriculum.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question that I don't think I have an answer for. She teaches a lot with mental illness, and so kind of looking for a curriculum. She has kind of like the scientific side, if you will, lots of information there, but more the biblical side of that. That might be one of those things where like a Christian counselor might have some good resources that they could share with you. I know that's probably where I would start. Going back, I would say, I know it's discouraging, but you keep pressing on because here's what's going to happen. At some point, crisis is going to happen in their life. And when crisis happens in their life, where are they going to turn to? Those that they know who have been loving on them the entire time. And have not given up on them. So.
I would think you just have to keep being positive and not be negative that they're giving you excuses. Always showing them love every time you talk to them. You know, never show them that you're getting aggravated with them, because then if that shows, like if a crisis comes up, they're going to know that you've always been loving to them, you know, and they will turn to you. Say, well, we still miss you. Just wanted to check in on you. You know.
It would also mean that you have to have long suffering. One of the gifts of the Spirit, that would be one, to say be long suffering with that person.
You know, because we miss your spirit. We miss your spirit. We miss your
Well, I thought I had that. I don't.
Just kidding about the dog.
I do have a couple more, but we're at time, and I want to respect y'all's time with that. I'm going to pass out ideas for making contacts. So this is just kind of 16 ways, and we've talked about some of those, but they might jog your memory on some other aspects of that could help you out. And I'm still open to answering any questions. My email is there. If you think of something later, I'll be glad to email you what I know or refer you to somebody who I think might know more. And so even with that question, if you'll send me an email, I have a friend who's a Christian counselor. I'll be glad to ask her and then let you know what she says, because she might have something that I don't know about. So, anything else? I don't know about you, but I'm tired of being just a tad warm. So y'all good? All right, thank y'all for being here.